Do you need a 15mm USB cable like this? Today we will be making a 50mm USB extension using an Ethernet network cable. This cable is category 6 without further ado. We will begin by clearing the lining of one of the ends of our cable. We will do this slowly so as not to cut the filaments inside. Be aware that these cables have a hard plastic core that must be removed. One thing that stands out about this cable is that they come braided in pairs. We will keep them this way to guarantee greater data fluidity when incorporating our USB+. Likewise, the braid will be uniform throughout the cable and both ends will be the same. Using tweezers or scissors, we'll cut all the wires so they're even. The filaments must protrude from their sheath at least 1 cm. We will do this for both extremes very carefully. We'll strip all the ends of the cable. I will leave this for you in quick motion so as not to lengthen the video too much. The next step will be to tin the tips very well, so that later when we go to solder our pluses, we don't struggle in the process. I take this opportunity to ask you to support me by subscribing to this channel. Subscribing is free. Activate the bell so you don't miss new videos, and if you are learning, give me a like. Next, we will use the two parts of a plus USB Type A. With this, we will be making the ends of our 15mm cable. We will couple them so that when welding the cables, we do not get confused in the order and they are perfectly welded. As always, the first thing will be to correctly tin the 4 contacts on each one of the plus. We will be joining each one of these cables with one of the plus contacts. In this case, we are first ordering the end that will receive the devices on our cable, more commonly known as the female end. When we are doing this operation, we must be very patient. Let's remember that if we exceed the pressure, once the cables are soldered, we can tear off the contacts. Furthermore, we must take into account that each one of these contacts is made up of 2 filaments, since the network cable has 8 filaments inside. We must also make sure that when welding each one of these cables does not make contact with its neighbor, at the same time that it cannot make contact with the sheet metal. Once the welding is ready, we must move the plus a little to see if any wires come loose to be sure that everything has gone well. We must measure each of the tips to see if there is conduction of the cable and at the same time that it is not shorting with the partner next to it. Once this level is overcome, we will move on to welding the next plus. We will place the cable in position so that we can weld the next end. For this, we will remove the core of the plus male, and in this way we can have a better angle when welding. The correct position for the cables to give soldiers is for the same colors to match at both ends. As with the previous situation, let us remember that this process is slow and meticulous. We need to ensure that the cables are properly welded and free from short circuits. If any solder is faulty, we must correct it now. Failure to do so will lead to unsolvable issues when manufacturing the plus body with epoxy plasticine. I zoom in so you can see how the colors match at both ends. This would be the correct position for our extension to work. Once again, and before moving on to the next step, we must check that everything has gone correctly. In this case, I check if there is no short circuit between the cables. Has this weld passed the test? In the next step, we will be using epoxy clay to make the body of our plus. I will measure approximately 1 centiotas of each color for each plus. Then we will mix the Play-Doh evenly, and at the end we will divide it in half and use a pot on each one of the ends. The correct way to make the plus body is the one I show you on the screen. Remember, not to put too much pressure on the contacts so that they do not fracture or become disordered. Our priority would be to perfectly cover the contacts so that they do not accumulate moisture. In addition to protecting them, it would hold them in place and extend the life of our extension. I will leave you with a quick camera so as not to lengthen this tutorial too much from the two ends of our extension to this is the one we should give the most attention to. At this stage, we must make sure that there is no plasticine left. Epoxy inside the plus, since if there is plasticine left, once it hardens, it won't let any devices connect. Now we will use the same technique used at the previous end, and we will cover the cables first. Just remember not to bend the line or put too much pressure on the contacts. Similarly, I will leave this quick footage for you. As a last detail, I will be punching the number 15, because if we have several cables, in this way we will be able to identify the length of each one of them. Once we complete this process, all that remains is to let it dry for at least 6. It's time we checked our cable. In this case, I will be connecting a GoPro camera on one of the ends, and on the other side, I will connect a 5-volt power bank. It should be noted that if this cable did not have good conductivity, it would not reach enough voltage to charge the camera. This cable you could use to connect webcam cameras to your PC. You might also connect a USB modem and position it 15 meters away. This concludes our broadcast. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you enjoyed the tutorial, please give it a like and activate the notification bell to avoid missing any new videos.